And good evening to our fellow listeners and followers. Today is Sunday, March 31st. Happy Easter out there, everyone. It is 8:26 p.m. This is Federico Lyons of States Rights Radio and
Seth Hancock of Seth Hancock Reports. And tonight's episode, the 24 Election Sideshow, with literally anybody else entering the race. Trump selling Bibles and back the blue spectacle on the death of a New York Police Department officer. Before we get started, just say Happy Easter, Federico, and Happy Easter to all the listeners. Tonight we've got I like this story. It's a fun story. There's we'll start with this from Texas. A man from Texas, he's a school teacher and U.S. Army vet. He literally legally changed his name to literally anybody else to run for president. His former name was Dustin Eby. And he's trying to get on the ballot in Texas. It's basically on the idea that, and I think he's correct. I think most people really don't like the so-called choices in Biden or Trump. This guy basically wanted people to have the chance to vote for literally anybody else. To me, it's a fun story. I think this is a way to troll the system. I hope he gets on the ballot in Texas.
Yeah, no, it is a funny story, and when you send me the link, and his license says literally anybody else. His first name is literally, and his last name is anybody else. I thought it was an interesting story, but I know that he is kind of person that doesn't approve of Biden or Trump. So, yet again, but I want to know, is this a joke? Is he serious? I take it that's a serious, but, how serious is he? And is he may not like Trump or Biden, but does he want to extend more the federal government? Does he want limited federal government and more power to reserve to the individual and the state? Because, third party and independent candidates, sadly, libertarians, constitutionalists today, Green Party, Reform Party candidates, they all want to still keep that same size of the federal government. So that's my only, issue about this guy. Is he serious? How serious is he? I know it's pretty funny. I don't think he has a chance. But my main concern is, what are his is his policy to keep the federal government as is, or reduce it in size, propose repeal amendments and stuff like that? So that's my issue, because I remember I spoke with a libertarian candidate for governor, and I mentioned to him about states being able to enforce the immigration laws on their own. And sadly, he said, "Well, it's the federal government who does it, so I'm content with the federal government doing it." So I said, "Well, I'm not gonna support you. I'm not gonna, I'm not going to make any speeches on your behalf or help you out, because if you want the federal government to enforce something that doesn't have to be enforced by the federal government, then you're not the right person for me." And that's why I'm deciding not to abstain, because I can't find the true candidate that represents founding principles of this republic. And so let's hope this Mr. Anybody Else has a little bit of founding principles in himself. How about you? What do you think, Seth?
Yeah, I think, from what I've looked up on his website, I don't think he's putting together a real platform. I think it's basically to kind of prove a point that people don't want Biden or Trump. I don't see much of a platform from him, so I don't know where he stands on the issues. Obviously, the likelihood of him getting on the ballot in one state, let alone 50 states, is unlikely. One of the things I read was he needs 113,151 signatures of registered voters in Texas who did not vote in the presidential primary of either party. So, I mean, that's another look at, how the system is rigged against independents and third-party candidates getting on the ballot, which the Republicans and Democrats don't have that type of hurdle to get on the ballots. To me, I think it illuminates an idea that I've thought about. Why don't we have the choice on every ballot for every position, none of the above? And you know what? If none of the above wins, the gets the most votes. The Democrats and Republicans, the people who ran, wouldn't be allowed to run in the runoff. I think I honestly think that it's a strange thing that on the one hand, everybody thinks that the Republicans and Democrats, if you vote third party, you're throwing away your vote. But at the same time, I think Americans also hate the choices the Democrats and Republicans are selling. So it's, I think this is, I think he's serious. Like he seriously believes that nobody wants Biden or Trump. But it's also being done as a joke to kind of show how much people disapprove of the two-party system. Whatever reason it is, I say go for it. And, that just literally anybody else is basically how I feel about most every election that every office that I see.
Yeah, typically it's federal offices that I will not cast my ballot. I'll probably go state and local. But yet ago, even state, state and local, depending on the state representative or the state senator, governor's not up here in Florida. But the problem I have also with independent candidates is that the requirements for this person to get on the ballot in Texas is one out of 131,000 registered voter signatures, and that's the problem. Is that this is a two-party perfect dictatorship where both parties, which they hate each other, and yet they conspire with one another to still keep in the same power. Many people forget after '92, Ross Perot made a really stink and for the both Republicans and Democrats. And after that '92 election, both parties got together. Both parties are now, you see them bickering the tribalist politics. Both parties got together to oust third party and independent candidates. I mean, what have happened to liberty? This is why I enjoy the 1824 election, because it gives you a wide variety of choices of candidates. Not just two. Because two is going to be two the same. It's not going to be any different. So that's why I really see no difference in being a Republican or Democrat these days. There really isn't a big difference. It's and people say, well, Trump is the lesser of two evils, and so I'm going to vote for Biden. No, wait, Biden is the lesser of two evils, so I'm going to vote for Trump. I mean, how about they're both evil in the sense, and don't vote because they're both evil. They both don't stand up for anything. They just want bigger federal government, bigger control. And quite frankly, I'm done with it. So if it's anybody else, and I hope the rules change in each state. I know you're not going to get it in Alabama or Florida because it's Trump country, but I don't think you're going to get it in Texas. But you may get it in Arizona or Nevada or Colorado. Then so be it. There has to be a variety of choice. How come we have here's something, Seth. How come we have 20 different variety of choices of Oreo cookies? We have peanut butter. We have mint. We have, it's god awful. It's the 20 different Oreo packages, and we only have 2 presidential candidates. What's wrong with that picture?
and that's and there's many things that encompass this. It's not only the ballot access issue, but also the media. The media did a story on this guy changing his name, but will they follow him after that? No, they just thought it was an amusing story, as we do. It's an amusing story, but they're not going to give this guy a chance. And that's because we have this attitude, this mindset that it's a two-party system and there's nothing we can do about that. And it's just not true. I mean, we could easily, if we just change the mindset in this country, that the two-party. I mean, I refer to the Democrats and Republicans as two crime families fighting over turf. We need to break up this duopoly and this duopoly that ultimately governs as a monopoly, because we just had the big spending bill that was passed that both parties were on board with, that just is outrageous spending and as usual. But we got to change this mindset that it's often, if I'm critical of Trump, they'll say, well, what do you want, Biden? No, of course not. And if vice versa, if you're critical of Biden, what do you want, Donald Trump? Well, no, both of these parties are so corrupt that it needs to be broken, and people need to see through this, and they need to get out of the tribal politics.
Here's a good question. Said something funny. 5 flavors: Oreo peanut butter, golden peanut butter, double stuffed Oreos, mint Oreos, or regular Oreos. What's your preference?
Probably regular.
Regular, okay.
Those, yeah.
And those are 5 different choices. How come we have 5 different choices for Oreos, but we only have 2 for president? Or even, again, even for national senate, we only have 2.
But here's the thing: in that scenario with the Oreos, people probably like all the choices, whereas when it comes to political candidates, people don't like any of the choices.
Yeah, but then they'll start voting for whatever their family has voted for, or my father grew up on regular Oreos, on peanut butter Oreos, but I'm gonna go with regular Oreos because that's what my family gets it every Sunday after the supermarket. So they always, they criticize the peanut butter, but then they'll go with what the family used to vote for, or used to eat for. So, but yeah, it's really sad about that. And our next story about the Election Sideshow is Trump selling Bibles. What do you think of that? It's $60 for the King James Version Bible, plus you get the Constitution, the Pledge of Allegiance, the Declaration of Independence. So let me get this straight: it's $60 for already public domain materials. Is that a scam? You think it's a scam?
Yes, that's easy. This is, on many levels, this is outrageous. But and I don't know if you went any further in there. If you order now, it's actually Lee Greenwood has been the one selling these Bibles for several years now, and I'm sure Trump's getting paid to promote it now. But if you order now, if you're one of the first, I think it was like the first 25,000 to buy one of these Bibles, you'll get for the low price of 1 ounce Lee Greenwood a silver coin for another $60. Which, by the way, silver's trading right now at $25.20 an ounce. I happen to be a precious metals buyer, and I know a lot of these commemorative coins are marked up quite a bit, but I've never seen a 1 ounce silver commemorative coin for $60. and they're selling it as a low price of $60 if you buy the Bible for $60. This is all just a scam. It's all just to make money, and it's but there's a deeper thing for me as a Christian. The U.S. Constitution, I believe, is a great document. The Declaration of Independence, also a great document. Pledge of Allegiance, I can do without. That's a whole separate discussion.
Yeah.
But, the Constitution, a great governing document. And it's a shame we don't follow it. And that's the point of our segment, is why we call it Restoring the Constitution. We want to restore the Constitution as our governing document. But these are man-made documents, and as a Christian, you do not add these to the Bible. You do not add these to the Word of God. Again, like you said, the King James Version Bible is public domain. Declaration of Independence, public domain. Constitution, public domain. The Pledge of Allegiance, public domain. And then Lee Greenwood's God Bless the USA, he owns the rights to. These do not belong with the Bible. Again, I said Pledge of Allegiance is a separate issue. It baffles me that people don't know the history of the pledge. Pledge of Allegiance was written by a socialist. We used to do the Bellamy salute, which was basically the Hitler salute, that we know of. The Pledge of Allegiance is just outrageous. I've never really made a big issue of it because, I kind of like, if people want to say the pledge, great, but I don't recite the pledge when I'm at like board meetings. I just stand up and, just stand there silently. But these documents do not belong together, and so this just it's blasphemous, it's idolatrous, and heretical. The Bible itself, the format with the U.S. documents, and it's also just another grift by Trump and the Trump people like Lee Greenwood, just trying to make money off of gullible people.
Yeah, well, you're right there, and the Pledge of Allegiance I also have a big issue with because it's indoctrination. It's a sense of indoctrination of the American people into, have allegiance or have, not really, because I have allegiance to the Constitution, that's good enough for me. But when you recite the pledge, you're reciting allegiance to a government, and you're not supposed to recite allegiance to a government or even a figure. I couldn't believe that, during Nazi Germany, you had an oath to Adolf Hitler. I mean, what the hell is that? You don't have an oath to a figure. You have an oath to the country or to the Constitution. So I have a big issue with the Pledge of Allegiance. And my biggest concern is, and, I see it, I know you're a Christian man, Seth, and I respect that. But I have a big, Trump's doing it because, he needs to make money because he's got a big bills to pay. But also, I see, Senator Ted Cruz, Congressman Massey, Congresswoman Green, and Congressman Boebert, and those type of members of Congress that, post, and not only Christian legislators, but also Muslim legislators, and even Christians, appealing to Muslim, happy Kwanzaa and happy Yom Kippur and all that. And, I keep telling people there's a reason why the First Amendment, the first line, it says Congress shall make no establishment of a religion, It doesn't say Christianity. It doesn't say Judaism. It doesn't say Islam. It doesn't say Judaism or Calvinist or whatever. It says no establishment of a religion. So when I see Trump, when I saw Trump doing the whole COVID thing, and he went out to the church right across from Lafayette Park, and he pulls out the Bible, I'm like, really? why can't you pull out the Constitution? Why is this thing of putting out the Bible just like that? Or swearing an oath of allegiance on the Bible? I've said it before, Seth. I find that so offensive, or swear an oath on, I think it was Keith Ellison from Minnesota swearing the oath of Congress on a Quran. No, how about putting your damn hand, excuse my language, on the Constitution, the main book that you're going to protect, maintain, and defend? So when I see Trump with the Bible and all that, I just, it just goes against the First Amendment, and it's so hypocritical. It just really upsets me. And with Lee Greenwood, I can't stand that song, God Bless the USA, and I'm proud to be an American. It's such an annoying song. How come they can't play Stars and Stripes Forever or Washington Post March, something uplifting that John D'Souza wrote good music to be a part of being an American, not that country redneck whatever. I don't know if you're a big fan of that song, but I just can't stand every time I listen at a Trump rally, see a Trump rally. I just can't stand it. It's just annoying. But my point is that when I see Trump in that, or I see any member of Congress or anybody preaching Christian values, I relate back to the First Amendment. I just, this country was, people say that, well, this country was born with Judeo-Christian values. Really? What does the First Amendment said? Yeah, I'm sure the founding father. Well, James Madison wrote the First Amendment because the Commonwealth of Virginia had a recognized religion of the Church of England, and the Commonwealth of Virginia was giving incentives to the Church of England. And James Madison, being Episcopalian, said, "Wait a minute, what's going on here? We can't have this." So he wrote the First Amendment, and that's the main point. So when I see Boebert or Green, spew nonsense that the founders were Christians and Judeo-Christian values, I just had to turn off the TV because I can't listen to them anymore.
Well, it's you look at Donald Trump, and you look at all of his infidelity throughout his life. All the, my problem with Trump has never been his abrasive talk, but I don't like it. I don't, but, my problem with Trump is he's a big government statist, and that's how he governed. But I don't like the way he talks. It's certainly not the way a Christian would talk. You don't just, mock people I think we kind of act like Trump's the only one who mocks. Both Democrats and Republicans mock their opponents all the time, and it's kind of disgusting how our politics has become. But you look at Donald Trump and you look at his lack of character, his lack of moral character, and and then he goes out and sells Bibles, and this gets, certain segments of the evangelical movement to, talk about what a great Christian he is. No, Donald Trump isn't. And this is more politicians using Christianity as a tool, which should offend real Christians. This is not what we should be wanting. It's making a mockery of Christianity, and Christians should call it out. And there have been actually a few. I saw something. Jason Whitlock, who's with the Blaze, and he's a big Trump guy. But he called out Trump for selling these Bibles, and say good for him. But there needs to be more of that, because this is just making a mockery of Christianity and of politics, and I'm fine with making a mockery of politics. But it's the way. The way they they sell themselves as Christians when it's clear that they're not. It's something we should reject, whether you're Christian or not. It should offend people the way they so brazenly lie.
Yeah, and you mentioned some good points there. Here's a man like Donald Trump that has taken the 10 Commandments and said, okay, I've done this, I've done this against, I've done this. This is a man that has 3 baby mamas, has committed adultery, one of the sins, has robbed, has steal. And then he says, stop the steal, but he actually stole. Trump University. He hasn't yet committed murder that we know of, but here's a man that has coveted the neighbor's goods and all the, and he has done almost every single violation of 10 Commandments, and yet you see the evangelicals of the South and the Midwest, and except for the Mormons. In 2016, I don't believe the Mormons endorsed him, but you have the evangelical South supporting this person, and I just don't understand. Here's a man that has said, "Okay, I've cheated on my wives, I've committed theft, and blah blah blah," and has done erroneous things and very unethical and immoral things, and I just don't understand. And this has nothing to do with religion or anything, but the South. I have never understood why many Southern individuals are supporting a Yankee. He's a just because, again, and you know what? Said? He's a carpetbagger Yankee. He moved from New York to Florida. I know many people don't consider Florida the South, but I think he's a carpetbagger. So, I don't understand why people, I've never seen Southerners support a Northerner more. They support more Donald Trump than John F. Kennedy. I don't understand it. So, I'm baffled by this, and I just don't know what to say. I'm just baffled that they support this type of sinner, because he's a sinner.
And it's not just, as a Christian, I recognize we've all sinned and none of us are perfect, but it's his brazen sin. Like he's proud of it. It's yes. Not, and it's this is something that any Christian should be able to read through and be upset. And the problem is of course Joe Biden is not a good guy either, and we get in this attitude, the lesser of two evils. This is the problem, and this goes back to our first discussion about how both parties have sold a bunch of crooked people, and that's why we need to break away from the two-party duopoly and get away from the tribal politics.
Yeah, that's yeah. You're right. You're right about that, and it's just so sad that we only see two and that's it. But and here comes our last segment, which again it's also a very tribalist sect of Blue Lives Matter or Black Lives Matter, and defund the police with the recent murder of a NYPD detective Diller, and so I'll let you take the lead on this one, Seth.
Yeah, so I guess this was earlier this week. A NYPD officer, Jonathan Diller, was killed during a traffic stop in Queens. And I guess from what I read, it was first NYPD officer killed in the line of duty in 2 years. So, I guess Trump decided to, go and politicize the funeral and attend it. The thing about it is that we've seen this for a while now, where presidents, whoever it is, Democrat or Republican, they have to show up at whether it be mass shootings, the president always has to show their face there. And I've heard people refer to them as the consoler in chief, and that bothers me. I mean, we need less of the president, whoever the president is. We need less of them. We need them to stop showing up to these things to make political points for any of these situations. This is not, it's a sad story. Pray for the family of this NYPD officer. But this is not a national. This is not a crime against the nation. It was a crime against the NYPD officer, and justice appears to be served right now. The guys are locked up, and hopefully they get the proper justice and due process. I don't know much of the facts of the case, so let's see what shows up there. But this is a local story, and we don't need the presidents butting their noses into these events to score political points and take the focus off of the grieving of the family. The family should be able to grieve in peace and not have the president show up. It's kind of like in Ohio with the train derailment, when Trump showed up to buy McDonald's for everybody. And what are you doing? We don't want this to become a national issue. But this is what everybody wants, whether you're Democrat or Republican. You want the president to show up on your TV screen every second of the day, and it's disgusting to me. I want less government, not more.
No, yeah, I want less of a presence of the federal government, and wherever there's, yeah, you're right, you've said it, wherever there's like a little event that happened, whether it's like you said, mass shooting or police shooting, or a black man or black person that gets killed by either a private white citizen or a law enforcement official, or the train derailment, or Katrina, why can't we go back to the Calvin Coolidge mentality where, when the Mississippi flood happened, he sent Herbert Hoover down there to assess the situation. He didn't have to be there. And, that's the issue is that, I see this criticism, and, Calvin Coolidge was criticized for that. And Thaddeus Callaway, senator from Arkansas, said, well, if his native Vermont ever have a flood, he'll be first one up there. Well, the joke's on that senator. There was a flood in Vermont, but Coolidge didn't go up there because he cannot show privilege to one state and not to the other state. So he needs to remain neutral. And he cannot he cannot partake in that. And it's like you said, it's sickening, it's disgusting. The worst picture I've seen was George W. Bush looking at his Air Force One window at the Katrina mess. I mean, that's not the responsibility of federal government. Yes, the levees, the Corps of Engineers levees broke, so they say that they broke. But, again, New Orleans has a city government. New Orleans belongs to the state of Louisiana. They have a governor. They have a legislature. They have a judicial system. They have everything to prep up for a natural disaster. They don't need a federal natural disaster relief fund that is FEMA. They don't need that. That is so unconstitutional. Federal government is not there to protect, and it's not there to not protect, but it's not there to give incentives on natural aid, a natural aid relief fund, or whatever type of aid. It's not there for that. It relies on the individual and their state government. For example, when the tsunami thing happened in Japan, I believe, back in 2006 after Katrina, people raised more money for the tsunami than for Katrina. Why? Because Katrina was a mess by the state government, not by the federal government. But the state government was a mess. So I just, when I see Trump out there and making a scene spectacle with the Diller family and saying, well, Biden should be up here. No, neither of you should be up there. Why can't you just stay in Mar-a-Lago here in Florida and just keep your trap shut and just worry about the things you need to worry that's dictating the Constitution? Law enforcement is not part of the Constitution. You have a federal law police, and when the federal police, the U.S. Marshals need assistance, then that's where you need to be. But you don't need to be with local and state and local police. So again, that's why I decided to bring this up, because it's tribalism politics just before an election season. It's here we go with back the blue or defund the blue or fund the blue, and this narrative that I'm so sick and tired. I heard it in 2020 after George Floyd, the unfortunate death of George Floyd, and I don't need to hear it again. I really don't. It's just too much, and it just sickens me that people want to see somebody out there, a golden person, preaching and saying this and saying. It's just too much for me.
Yeah, and the narrative that will be pushed with this, and this is not something we don't want the police to have this mentality. But they're going to push this mentality that police are, their lives are on the line every day. I mean, look, I say this about everybody. I mean, all of our lives are on the line every day when we walk out the door. I mean, it's a dangerous world. That's just the way it is. It's always been that way. I looked up the statistics, and, in 2022, 129 law enforcement officers were killed in the line of duty. And of those, 56 were in accidents. Compared that to the number of Americans shot and killed by police, there were 1,163 shot and killed by police in 2023. Now, that's just bare statistics. I mean, the American citizens are in more danger of being killed by cops than cops are being killed by citizens. That's just reality. That's not to say if you dig deep into each case, some of these are justified killings, some are not. But we don't want that mentality. We want police to have the mentality that they need to enforce the laws. They do not need to be judge, jury, and executioner. Their job is not to get home to their family every night. I mean, that's one of the talking points is, the job of a cop is to get home to their family every night. Well, no, that's not your job. Your job is to arrest criminals after crimes have been broken and after you've done actual police work, to investigate and gather evidence. You just see, what's happening with this incident in New York. It's going to be used to steal more money from taxpayers to fund police from the federal level, even though, as I've always said, we need to localize police, and local police need to be funded by the local people. We just prop it up. We prop a death up for a political issue, and that's it's just not right.
No, it's definitely not right, and that's why it continues with another election sideshow of a sideshow, and it's just like amateur theatrics, carnival hour, and I'm just not really paying attention. Well, I am paying attention, but not to the extent that I'm going to cast my vote for either of them. So, again, it's literally anybody else, Mr. Anybody Else, if you're out there. I don't know if you have a chance, but again, my main concern is it's not worth voting for either of them right now because there was only two. You're going to get much of the same crapola of centralized government, whether it's for national security or for social services. And quite frankly, on the federal level, for Senate, Congress, President, I'm not going to vote. So it's literally nothing for me. I don't have much care anymore for on the federal level. On the state and local sides, yeah, I'm probably going to vote for my local sheriff or for my state reps or state senators. But, it's for me right now in this segment, I'm going to abstain. I don't care. Who backs the blue, who funds the blue, who defunds the blue. What about back the Constitution? What about back the Fourth Amendment that starts our right? Nobody even says that anymore. That's my last thought, Seth. I'm probably I don't care anymore. Literally anybody, nothing. I don't care. I'm just not interested anymore in Trump or Biden because either of them are just two pathetic losers, and I'm gonna abstain.
Yeah, and we just had our primary here in Illinois, and for the first time I did not pick up the Republican ballot. I picked up the unaffiliated ballot just so I could vote against raising my taxes because there were two ballot questions on the primary election. So I went and voted to try and stop the government from stealing my money. But outside of that, there really is no point of voting unless we start having the mindset that that we want independence, and it's people need to desire liberty, and there might be a reason to vote if the people start desiring liberty, but as of right now there's really no point to vote, and it's just a corrupt cesspool in DC. It's there's no change coming from Washington. The change will start in the hearts and minds of the American people.
Yeah, and if people want change, they can have it, but right now they just want someone to be out there kissing babies or eating ice cream or throwing out toilet paper or McDonald's. And quite frankly, I don't want that. I don't want, I really don't. When I saw Trump throwing out toilet paper in Texas after the hurricane they had in 2017, I go, that's my money he's throwing away in toilet paper. I don't want that. I don't want Obama also giving out cell phones in 2012, or who knows what they're going to give out in 2024. So, me personally, I stopped voting since 2008 when both candidates supported the TARP bailouts, Obama and McCain. I said, what the hell? What is the point? I told my dad back then, I go, why am I doing this? Both of them supported government bailouts, the banks, and, clearly did not show me any difference whatsoever, and I'm not going to cast my vote for either of them, and I've been doing that so far. I voted third party in 2012 for Gary Johnson, biggest mistake of my life. Not because I know he's a kind of a junkie on the marijuana, but it wasn't that. It's that he just wants more federal government and more centralized government for social issues, and quite frankly, I'm not going to go for that. So that was a big mistake of my life, and so henceforth, I don't much care for that anymore. So out there, folks, if you're out there listening, remember that it's your right to not vote or vote. I'm not going to hold it against you. If you want to vote for Trump, be my guest. You want to vote for Biden? Be my guest. If you don't want to vote, be my guest. As the words of George Carlin, I chose not to vote because it's meaningless. It's pointless. So I'm going to follow the George Carlin method. I encourage people to listen to George Carlin's bit on why he doesn't vote. It's funny and it's truthful. So I encourage that, and I encourage you to abstain your vote if you can. And how about you, Seth?
Yeah, think for yourself and, consider why you vote and think if you're getting any of the reason. I mean, just think for yourself and stay away from the tribal politics. And go with your gut. But I have no interest in voting for these candidates. I mean, and the third party option that seems to be the most viable, RFK Jr., he just chose a globalist puppet for his VP. So it shows you that even in the third parties that they're controlled as well, just like the Democrats and Republicans.
Yeah, and I have one last note on that, Seth. I would rather vote for JFK if they clone him, or if he was still living. I vote for probably he'd be dead by now, but I support more the uncle than the nephew. And you're right, when he picked that VP, a former Democrat, but still in line the pockets of globalist centrists. No, thanks you very much. At least your uncle made the second largest tax cuts in U.S. history and was a little more pro-business than you. So, if anybody wants to listen to the Kennedy tune, I go for JFK more than RFK Jr. So, I'm not going to vote for third party in this time around.
Yeah, it's like I said, change starts in the hearts and minds of men, and if we desire liberty, we can have it. It takes us understanding that we have a stake in this, and elections are not what count. It's what we do and how we live our lives daily.
Exactly, and with that note, have a great, swell Liberty weekend ahead. Hope you're all safe out there, and catch you all next Sunday. Have a great night.
Good night.